most eye-opening thing I ever learned about men was from my college human sexuality class, where the professor told us that men don't actually like women.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love coming to Costco with your wife?
0.
How much do you love coming to Costco with your wife?
0. Can I say negative?
How many girls do you know actually have hobbies?
The kind of masculine energy, I think, is good.
So when I say women deserve less, what I mean by that is make women earn their validation and resources.
You're taught that, they have a submissive place in society.
45% of men 18 to 25 have never approached a woman in person.
Vogue just posted an article saying having a boyfriend is embarrassing. I think for men, this is a wake-up call.
Tyler, I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this. We're choosing to be single. We are. We live it here.
I think that we've gone wrong here, that women should prioritize family and children way above career.
The only thing scarier than a haunted house is a house where you're splitting rent with a man who you cook for.
Since women have gotten the right to vote in the United States, I think every single aspect of American lifestyle has gone down.
Wilson says in his vision of a Christian society, women as individuals shouldn't be able to vote.
2025 feels like when the Kens took over in the Barbie movie.
Are you a young man feeling lonely, directionless, like the world's left you behind? Or maybe you're just feeling disconnected and like society owes you more? Well, there is a cure for that: blaming women. That's right, from podcasts to TikToks, thousands of men are discovering the easiest solution to all of life's problems. It's quick, convenient, and best of all, requires absolutely no accountability. Welcome to the hottest trend sweeping the internet: misogyny. All jokes aside, we do have a problem on our hands, because as much as women have spent decades clawing their way out of the tight grasp of the patriarchal system, somehow we're finding ourselves spiraling back into our old ways of suppression. Across the world, governments are restricting access to reproductive health care, reversing protections, and pushing traditional family values back into policy. And while that's happening, the internet is feeding young men a new narrative that women's progress is a problem, and that empowerment has gone too far. I do want to preface that this video is not supposed to be an attack on men. I am happily married to one after all. This is a dissection of how feminism has become uncool. And if it's that easy for society to turn its back on women, then that raises the question of whether we ever really stood with them to begin with. To start off, the feminist movement has gone through a few phases over the decades, but overall it was always just striving for equal rights and opportunities, right? In order to do so, there was a push to prove that women are just as capable as men and therefore worthy of these opportunities. However, somewhere along the line, equality became synonymous with sameness, meaning that we weren't necessarily raising up women, but fitting them into the same mold as men. The girl boss era is the perfect example of this, as it was a lot of women adopting traditionally masculine traits in order to succeed.
Girl boss life.
Yeah. From Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In to Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos, the recipe was always act like a man if you want to get ahead.
A basic human right to be able to get access to information about themselves.
So one of her interesting cues is, I don't know if you've ever seen her talk. She uses a really deep voice, like fakely deep, like down here. It's because she read in some book that having a lower tone of voice makes you more competent. And that is true. Research has found that people who use the lower end of their natural voice tone are seen as competent. That's for both men and women.
I even remember when I was in college and we had a talk in one of our classes about job interviews. And basically the whole conversation was on power stances that improve your confidence and first impression in the interview. But in hindsight, I realized that all these lessons were just on how to mimic traditional male behavior, like taking up space and being aggressive. But the moral of the story is that we've always been taught to tone down our femininity because it will only lead you to being dismissed and not taken seriously. So cut the ruffles, the bright colors, and the flashy jewelry, and replace it with a dark pantsuit with clean lines and a hard attitude.
You don't like me, Bond. You don't like my methods. You think I'm an accountant. A bean counter, more interested in my numbers than your instincts.
The thought had occurred to me.
Good. Because I think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur. A relic of the Cold War. Whose boyish charms, though wasted on me, obviously appeal to that young woman I sent out to evaluate you.
Now, while this does sound kind of backwards of what we would expect of feminism based on its definition of social, economic, and political equality, it does make sense when you're fighting a world that sees anything feminine as less than. And also, it did work for women for a long time to gain respect in rooms that were traditionally male-dominated. The problem here that you can probably pick up on is that what was hiding under this movement was the suppression of womanhood. Because if we're only respecting women who take on stereotypical male traits, then we aren't really respecting women, are we? The idea that in order for a woman to succeed, she needs to act like a man assumes that a feminine woman cannot be successful. Women have to act like men to be treated with respect in the workplace. Women who are strong and tough are praised on their leadership qualities. However, women are cautioned that being emotional or too sensitive will prevent them from succeeding. This piece on why we need to stop devaluing femininity says it perfectly. Little girls are for the most part taught that women can be anything. However, what they aren't taught is that people who dress, think, or act in a traditionally feminine manner can be anything.
The most eye-opening thing I ever learned about men was from my college human sexuality class, where the professor told us that men don't actually like women. Not all men, sure, but hang in. He said that the way that our society socializes boys to, quote, become men is not to tell them how to be men, it's just to teach them how to not be women. Don't cry, be a man. Don't be a pussy, be a man. Don't be weak, be a man. Don't be sensitive, be a man. Don't like those things, those are girl things. And the tool we use to do that kind of socializing, to steer them away from feminine things, is shame. And you just can't go your whole life being told that the worst thing you could do is be like a woman and expect to actually like women at the end of that.
And for some of you, this might seem like a bit of a stretch. After all, the 2010s were all about girl power. And I don't blame you, because it's something that I only realized over the past few years. But when you really look into the culture that we grew up with in the 2000s, all the stars start to align in how much we were constantly undermining femininity without even really realizing it. Because besides the obvious examples, like the phrase, "you throw like a girl," being all the rage during that time,
"You play ball like a girl!"
Unfortunately, the devaluation of femininity went much deeper. Starting with the clothes we wore, as we grew out of girlhood, we learned that the color pink was childish, unserious, and something to leave behind if we wanted to seem mature. The music we listened to was categorized by gender as well, as Coldplay was deeply sentimental, introspective, and artistic, but Kelly Clarkson was just superficial pop. Twilight wasn't exactly a literary masterpiece, but the hate it got was wildly disproportionate, and almost entirely because it was for teenage girls.
So the question is, did Twilight deserve all the hate that it got? Honestly, no. Not at all. I think society kind of just hates what women like. It's more just about because so many girls gravitated towards Twilight, people looked at it like, you know what I mean?
And with that, really any teenage novel with a strong female lead was problematic, as strength was only given to female characters who behaved like men. Think of what comes to mind as traits for a woman being a badass. Loud, assertive, rides a motorcycle, maybe really good at martial arts. And yes, that woman does sound like a badass. But we pretty much never explore the idea of strong female characters that save the world by being feminine, empathetic, and caring. Even when women did write novels that transcended gender, it was rebranded to hide its femininity. Like when J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter, she was advised to go by her initials to not discourage young boys from reading it. So as you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about this, but one of the reasons for that is because it's something that I've definitely gone through as well. For a long time, I really downplayed my femininity as I fell in line with the cultural idea that being too girly somehow makes you shallow, basic, or lacking individuality. And so I've spent a long time asking myself questions like, do I actually dislike frills and bows, or is it something that I've been told is less respectable? In that process, I have found my own style, my own version of dressing feminine, which is kind of a combination of classic academia with a touch of Studio Ghibli. Basically the perfect blend of girly and cozy grandmother. And now I actually love adding feminine details to my outfits that feel genuine to me. That's why VIVAIA, the partner of today's video, is such a win, because they offer all the feminine shoe options I'm looking for, but without compromising on comfort. The first pair that I got, which are my favorite, are the Margot Mary Janes in ruby red. They actually go really well with this outfit. They add just the right amount of whimsy with a pop of color, and it instantly makes any outfit look more polished. Whenever I wear these, I feel like I instantly step into a Studio Ghibli movie, so they're my faves. They're also super comfortable with a structured arch and forefoot support, plus a shock-absorbing heel, so they can handle a night out on the town. My everyday go-tos, though, are the Francesca loafers in caramel dark chocolate wool. They make any outfit feel more academic, so they fit right in with whatever I'm wearing. Whether I'm working at a coffee shop or just out running errands, they're my go-to. The insole is made of a double-layered PU and has a diamond pattern, which makes them super soft and bouncy. And then as the temperature continues to drop as we approach winter, the Tyler boot, which I got in Desert, keeps my toes intact without compromising on style. Between the waterproof outer layer and the fluffy insulation, they are my must-have for running around town on frosty days when I still want to feel put together and feminine. Because I love these shoes so much and I want you guys to try them out as well, VIVAIA is hooking you up with a special promo code. Just use my code BFAE, which stands for Black Friday Ashley Embers, to enjoy the exclusive Black Friday offer from November 13th to December 2nd. Enjoy even better discounts on VIVAIA's official website: 1 pair for 10% off, 2 pairs for 20% off, 3 pairs for 25% off, and 4 pairs for 30% off. Check out the link in the description to start building your own collection, and also let me know what your favorites are, because mine are definitely the Mary Janes. This brings us to the hobby double standard. Take pretty much any female-dominated hobby of the time, and it was less cool compared to the male-dominated counterparts. For girls, being interested in makeup was dismissed as vanity, but when boys showed interest in tattoos, it's not self-absorption, it's self-expression. This also totally discounts the fact that women use beauty as a tactic to get ahead in a world that literally rewards attractiveness.
And what about appearance generally? Do you think much about that? So do you think much about, because you look your outfit's stunning today.
You're very
Does it matter?
Sadly, it does. We are still, I think, in a world where the way you appear when you walk in the room impacts first impressions. On the day of the debate, being a woman running for president, and many women in various high-level positions get their hair and makeup done. Back to your point about presentation. And it can take hours.
But it's not a business tactic. No, it's a superficial bimbo behavior. But I digress. Girls' journaling is oversharing, whereas boys' podcasts are thought pieces. Reading romance novels is escapism and frivolous. But when men cry over the Super Bowl, that's passion. Moving on, loving fashion and clothes is empty consumerism, but a sneaker collection, that's an investment. And even in the video game world, anything made for girls isn't seen as a real game. The Sims is silly and unserious, while violent video games like Call of Duty are respectable, the kind of game that makes you a real gamer. And I don't say all of this to make fun of men's interests, but the point is that we devalue women enjoying things that are just for fun, while men can enjoy them without being called shallow or indulgent. It's as if women aren't allowed to have leisure activities without it being an attack on their intelligence. For women, pretty much any pastime that exists purely for enjoyment carries a mask of superficiality, with the only exceptions that I can think of being hobbies related to household labor. Think knitting, sewing, cooking, all seen as wholesome or useful, because activities that reinforce a caretaking identity is something to be encouraged. It's a traditional double standard where men are permitted hobbies for escape, self-expression, and leisure, while for women, the only respectable hobbies are the ones for service or utility.
How many girls do you know actually have hobbies?
Like some girls, like they knit or they read or something like that.
Dude, shout out to girls that knit. Shout out to my queens that know how to knit, make a blanket, a scarf, gloves. Like
Talk about a green flag, eh?
Dude, that's a green flag. My mom did it. My nana did it. My aunts. Like women back in the day just learned how to do things that are important, such as knit, cook, bake, and run a household. These are all feminine, nurturing qualities that men love.
Oh, dear God. I have tons of hobbies. Do you want to hear my daily routine? I wake up, I grab my phone, and I see if he's texted me. Then I put on lip gloss. Then I go downstairs to make breakfast. I grab a single piece of lettuce, I sniff it, and then I put it back. Yum. Then I come upstairs and I change from my nighttime lingerie into my daytime lingerie. Then I brush my hair, 50 times on each side, but sometimes I have to restart because I lose count. Numbers are hard, but I can always FaceTime my guy friends and they help me count because I'm a dumb fucking woman. Then I go to the mall, but I put on makeup first because there might be boys there. Then I come home, I paint my nails, and I gossip with my girlfriends. And after a long, hard day of being a woman, I go on YouTube and I search podcasts of average-looking 30-year-old white men with patchy facial hair talking shit about women. Because they're always so good.
And as it turns out, this is actually well known and documented as gender devaluation, the process where anything associated with women or femininity is seen as less serious, less valuable, or less intelligent than things associated with men or masculinity. The message is continuously ingrained in our minds by the media and, sadly, family and friends. In books, one is encouraged to root for the spunky tomboy heroine or the shy, modest bookworm who has the moral high ground because she doesn't care about that stuff. In contrast, the antagonist is typically the shallow, blonde Miss Popular who struts around the school in 6-inch high heels. Time and time again, blatant stereotyping in movies and books remind viewers, often teenage girls, who are the target audience, that femininity is dumb and undesirable.
You're not stupid, Karen. No, I am actually. I'm failing almost everything. Well, there must be something you're good at. I can put my whole fist in my mouth.
All of this really boils down to one thing, which is that the worst thing you could be called in the 2010s was basic. Watch out, because if you liked Starbucks, Uggs, or anything pumpkin spiced, then you too would be reduced down to the most boring girls with no personality or interest.
Pumpkin spice latte, please. I want it freezing, though. Actually, I just want a regular coffee. Those white girl pumpkin spice lattes annoy me. I'm in love.
But what does it really mean to be basic? It literally just means that you like things that other girls like, as if collective enjoyment somehow makes something less valuable. And so the second enough women show interest in something, it's ruined by default. People really co-opted an entire word just so they could insult women for enjoying things that are undeniably harmless. And it's so infuriating because there is no male equivalent to basic. Men are allowed to have basic interests like sports, video games, or even hoodies, and it's considered normal. Meanwhile, everything women do is judged, stereotyped, or sexualized. We don't get the luxury of blending in, and honestly, it's exhausting. This is how girls ended up with the desire to not be like other girls. It became the ultimate social status and proof that you've transcended the supposed flaws of regular girlhood, distancing yourself from femininity and aligning instead with what's masculine. It increases the pressure on girls to be different and unique. It teaches them that their hobbies, pastimes, and interests, if traditionally feminine, aren't valued as much as traditionally masculine ones. It creates a competition for girls to stand out in the gender others perceive as a shallow mass with no individuality or character. The problem, besides discouraging your own femininity, was that you had to drag down other women to earn the title of not like other girls. And a lot of girls did inadvertently adopt masculine traits in an attempt to be respected. No one wants to be seen as the ditzy girl who only loves shopping and doesn't have more than 2 thoughts in their head in a day, because that's exactly what culture and media told us femininity looked like. So as the 2020s came around, the tides began to shift in culture as we all started waking up to the lies we've been told. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but my hunch is that with the rise in short-form content, girls were just talking to each other more and deconstructing their previous beliefs. Online trends about femininity started taking hold of our algorithms, and we began to let go of the not like other girls or pick-me narratives that had such a hold on us for so long. The girls girl trend was a big part of that, calling out women who tear each other down and reframing the idea that being like other girls is something to be proud of, not ashamed of.
Just remember, there's a special place in hell for women who don't help each other.
To give you a definition real quick, Urban Dictionary defines a girl's girl as a girl who has respect for female etiquette. A girl who's not petty and strives to be ethical and decent in her dealings with her female friends.
Embarrassing you in front of a group of guys, not a girl's girl. Tucking in your tag when they notice it's sticking out, girl's girl. These weird, insecure, backhanded compliments, not a girl's girl.
Being a girl's girl is an act of sisterhood and solidarity in a world that pitted women against each other. To follow, we saw the rise in other sillier trends like hot girl walks and girl dinner, all reinforcing the idea that you can embrace girly attributes. And while most of the time these trends are just silly, some say that they speak to something deeper. The inherent pleasure of girl dinner comes less from what makes up the meal than from what isn't a part of it. Cooking or cleaning up, providing in the traditional way women are asked to. Girl dinner isn't something one makes for kids or a partner. It's a celebration of the lack of responsibility typically associated with being a grown woman. We've had support outside of social media as well with the Barbie movie, because under all the frills and the soft pink color grading, it spoke to the transition from girlhood to womanhood and all the insecurities that come with it. It made women feel seen and understood in a way that mainstream media rarely does. I know for a lot of us, myself included, we went into the movie expecting a hyper-feminine, girl power, rah-rah type of movie, and instead got hit straight to the heart with the most stripped-down, authentic depiction of the roller coaster of girlhood.
We have to always be extraordinary. But somehow we're always doing it wrong. You have to be thin, but not too thin. And you can never say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy, but also you have to be thin. You have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. You have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You're supposed to love being a mother, but don't talk about your kids all the damn time. You have to be a career woman, but also always be looking out for other people. You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane, but if you point that out, you're accused of complaining. You're supposed to stay pretty for men, but not so pretty that you tempt them too much or that you threaten other women, because you're supposed to be a part of the sisterhood, but always stand out and always be grateful. But never forget that the system is rigged, so find a way to acknowledge that, but also always be grateful. You have to never get old. Never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never show fear, never get out of line. It's too hard, it's too contradictory, and nobody gives you a medal or says thank you. And it turns out, in fact, that not only are you doing everything wrong, but also everything is your fault.
There is a bittersweet element to revisiting the landmines of growing up and wishing you'd known better, wishing you'd known you were good enough, that you could speak up or eat what you wanted, or that you'd get over that person who broke your heart. As with Barbie, there is a pure joy in doing it together, getting back a little bit of the girlish freedom to feel deeply and visibly by identifying the means by which that freedom is often taken away. The reason this movie hit different was, again, because it was women showing their strength using femininity, not in spite of it. The movie took everything that's been mocked or trivialized about being a woman, the pink, the emotions, the care, the softness, and reframed it as powerful. It flipped the narrative that kindness is weakness and showed that empathy and vulnerability can be your strength. As said here, we were taught that girlishness was a bad thing, so it's really fun and comforting to indulge in something a lot of us maybe feel we shunned or couldn't access in our adolescence. And then there was the Eras Tour, the highest grossing concert of all time, which took hold of our feeds and our wallets. Now, I'm not here to defend whether Taylor's music is good or bad, but this tour did play a big part in the feminism movement, so it's worth mentioning. Because the concert was so much more than just a silly gathering of girls in costumes. It was a rare opportunity for thousands of women to be seen and heard with no fear of negativity or shame. It was multiple generations celebrating the female experience, the heartbreak, ambition, betrayal, and self-worth in a way that doesn't tone yourself down. As for the performance itself, the juxtaposition of Taylor singing about how she's a force to be reckoned with, all the while wearing pink bedazzled bodysuits, really does something for someone who grew up being told that girliness is a weakness. In many of her songs, she gives the language and a voice to all of the women that have been shut down, walked over, and disregarded. We're talking All Too Well, Tolerate It, I Did Something Bad, Mad Woman, You're on Your Own Kid, The Prophecy, and Would've, Could've, Should've. As she sings, Give Me Back My Girlhood, it was mine first. And that's why her concert became what it did. Not because we just wanted to wear cute dresses and sing Love Story, though that was definitely a part of it, but because we got to cry out, the patriarchy in unison.
For those of you who don't understand all the hype around Taylor Swift and why girls and women love her so much, just think about how pure and how much of a peak girlhood moment that is. Hundreds of thousands of girls and women all around the world being in a space where they feel free to get excited and giddy about sparkles and new dresses and songs that make them feel seen. That sort of moment and that sort of sheer excitement that she brings girls and women through the environment of girlhood that she has created. That is why she is so loved and cherished, and that is so important. To provide a space where women and girls are free to feel so much unbridled joy together is so political and so important. The importance of it should not be understated in a world that doesn't usually allow us to feel joy on this scale.
The biggest thing I noticed is that no girl was uncomfortable screaming her heart out to Taylor Swift, jumping around, dancing awkwardly, and having the best time of their lives. Basically, girls of all ages were comfortable being everything they are trained to hate. Pretty, sparkly, fun-loving fangirls. A lot of men's worst nightmare, and what I'm sure a lot of girls would like to be if they only felt comfortable expressing themselves in that way. And so all of a sudden, this was becoming the decade that women could take a breath and like the things that they wanted to like. So much so that the year 2023 was affectionately named the Year of the Girl, as it represented an overdue course correction. To quote Taya Miller, "The resurgence in girl trends means no longer being ashamed of the parts of me that I tried to suppress for so long. I've accepted the little girl in me that's waited 24 years to be herself, fully and authentically."
Oh, Paisley, are you going to a little ladies' luncheon? Perhaps a lobster roll by the beach in your cutesy little dress? No, I'm going to a really important business meeting. And I think the biggest win of my 30s and like taking my power back is that I will attend any business thing as deeply feminine as I want to be, because it doesn't make me any less of a boss. So I'm going to take my little tiny purse and my little tiny notepad with my little fluffy pen, and I'm going to take really serious business notes in it, because I'm taking Peach Honey to the moon and I'm going to look good doing it, babe.
But our happy story unfortunately does end here, because while women have made incredible strides this decade, the patriarchy has started poking its nasty little head up again in resistance. And it's gotten so bad actually that people are saying this year feels like the year that the Kens took over Barbie Land. So while all these women were having their feminine awakening, there were some pretty major setbacks happening at the same time.
This movie is not just a piece of shit. This movie is a flaming piece of dog shit piled atop an entire dumpster on fire, piled atop a landfill filled with dog shit.
See, the problem with women realizing that they don't need to conform to the patriarchy is the system literally depends on them doing so. Because who else is going to take on the role of the unpaid caretakers of the home and do all the cooking, cleaning, and childcare so the rest of the world can keep working? When women stop needing men for survival, the entire foundation of the patriarchy starts to crack. So of course, moves are being made to rebuild that dependence. Enter the rise of the anti-feminist movement. What this looks like is a combination of shifting government policies and regressive cultural trends in an attempt to suppress women's independence. And it's working, as more people think that when it comes to giving women equal rights than men, things have gone far enough in their country. As well, the Survey Center on American Life found a nearly 20-point gender gap between Gen Z men and Gen Z women in identifying as feminist. Only 43% of Gen Z men say they generally think of themselves as feminist, compared to 61% of Gen Z women.
Have you guys seen the video of the guy who goes up to husbands in Costco and is like, "Hey, how much fun do you have shopping at Costco with your wife?" And the guys are like, "I hate my wife. I hate her." Oh my God. Like, talk about killing the vibes of a Costco trip. You've known a guy for 3 seconds and you feel comfortable shading your wife to him? You would have to torture me for days to get me to make up something negative to my wife to a stranger. Oh my God. Provider of the family these men want to be? You're providing headaches and bad times.
To break this down, there have been a few major political and cultural flashpoints leading to this. To start off strong, we've had many attacks on women's reproductive rights, including the overturning of Roe v. Wade. We also have the rise of the trad wife movement, a cultural trend that romanticizes submission and convinces women that they'd rather be lobotomized than have autonomy. As well, we have the epidemic of bro podcasts, convincing men that they've been undercut by women and that the world has never been more hostile to men.
I learned something about women, is that they are intrinsically, I don't want to use the word lazy, but I will.
When you let men have opinions, they start podcasts. So, no.
Podcasting has become a popular medium for men's rights activists to spread superficial hustle culture and misogynist ideas. If you tune into these podcasts, you can get generic financial and fitness tips with a side of sexism. Fresh and Fit podcast even published a book, Why Women Deserve Less, which, if you couldn't tell from the title, is about why women should earn less and are using men for money. And you don't have to look very far to find a multitude of Reddit posts from women saying that bro podcasts have ruined their relationships. This also includes bigger figures like Mark Zuckerberg famously saying on the Joe Rogan podcast that we need more masculinity in the workplace.
I think having a culture that celebrates the aggression a bit more has its own merits.
Finally, there was the Tylenol scandal, a largely debunked controversy that, while medical experts dismissed, still feels like an attack on women's autonomy because it's one of the only pain medications women can take during pregnancy, and without it, managing pain or simply functioning as a working mother becomes significantly harder. So all of this has built into a cultural backlash where rejecting feminism has become trendy, and women are once again being blamed for everything that's wrong in the world.
My question to you, Michael, is we all know that the fall came through the woman. Evil comes into the world through the woman. And since women have gotten the right to vote in the United States, with the exception of technology, I think every single aspect of American lifestyle has gone down. The nuclear family, open borders, welfare state, the abortion state, homosexuality, transgender abortion, defund the police, the attack on our military, the attack on masculinity. I could go on and on. I really do think that we have to have a serious conversation about repealing the 19th Amendment. I wonder what you think.
Adding to the problem are larger political and cultural shifts that encourage skepticism towards feminism. The type of culture war that I have observed happening frequently between conservative legislators and activists of the relevant culture is terming feminism as being woken up too much so, or it is family values that are being eradicated. Such concepts then permeate into the vocabulary of normal life, causing anti-feminist views to not only be acceptable, but reasonable. This anti-feminist movement has even made some men feel like it's suddenly acceptable to say the most outlandish, derogatory things because now they see themselves as victims and they're just speaking their truth.
Women are like they just are what they are, and they cannot lead. They don't know what's up. They are not equipped. Like, they have no wherewithal.
Women are the kind of people that people come out of.
So you just think they're meant to have babies. That's it. They're just a vessel.
No, it doesn't take any talent to simply reproduce biologically.
The really worrying part is that it's not just public figures spreading this nonsense anymore, but we're seeing a real cultural shift among Gen Z men. A lot of young men are now embracing traditional misogynistic ideas and wanting women back in their place just so they can feel powerful again. We see this in a recent poll of Gen Zers aged 18 to 29 on how Americans feel about certain issues. The most notable of the stats showing that Gen Z men rate having children as the most important thing in their lives, and marriage ranking fourth most important, both far outranking emotional stability, which falls all the way down at 12th. Meanwhile, Gen Z women of the right ranked achieving financial independence as their top priority, and having children and being married were ranked 6th and 9th respectively, which really goes to show where these men's priorities are, bringing women back to reliance on men, rebranded as traditional family values and biological truth. The thing is, this movement isn't just about restoring some logical, natural order of things, because as much as macho men like to pretend like they aren't emotional creatures, they most definitely are, and that's a huge part of what's fueling the anti-feminist movement. The truth is, men are lonely, and instead of confronting it, many of them are projecting that pain onto women. A 2021 survey revealed that men have, on average, 50% fewer close friendships than women, and the number of close male friendships has plummeted over the last last 20 years. It is important to note that everyone is lonely right now. It is an epidemic after all, and the factors contributing for the most part have nothing to do with women. Between the lack of third spaces, screen addiction running rampant, and the problem with excessive boundaries. But it is also true that women are pursuing men less often, and many men interpret that shift as the root cause of their loneliness, as if romantic validation is the only form of connection available to them.
You know how people say men don't know anything about their friends?
I went through a breakup this year. Really don't ask her name.
What? This is chilling. You know when men complain about something and women are like, and who set that system up? And it's a dig at the patriarchy because the patriarchy hurts both women and men. This is what we mean. What do you mean you don't know the name of one of your best friend's longtime girlfriends? What do you mean you didn't even know why he moved, which was because of that breakup? What do you mean? I can't tell what's scarier, that they have almost zero real connection or vulnerability. I have more connection and vulnerability with strangers I meet at the pet store than these guys do with each other. And one day there's going to be a woman who dates them or marries them and it's like, why don't you have any friends? Why do you hate when I'm with my friends? Why do you have emotional outbursts? Why do you not know how to open up to me? And it's because these men are ground zero of the male loneliness epidemic.
But we'll move on. The thing is, women aren't rejecting men because they hate them. It's because we technically don't need them anymore. Economically, anyway. Historically, women's survival did depend on men, so they were forced to settle down with pretty much anyone at the end of the day. We couldn't own property, access credit or bank accounts, or even work in many industries. So the structure of marriage and male leadership was not just a cultural norm, but an economic survival strategy. But as we know, we've made a lot of progress in that area, and now women are the primary earners in roughly 40% of US households, and globally, women make up nearly half the labor force. We've gained other rights as well, like living alone without stigma, having access to credit, housing, and healthcare independently, and choosing if or when we want children. So what this means is that women can finally pick a partner based on preference, not to dependence.
Scariest thing about being single in my 30s is not my biological clock. It's that the older that I get, the more I become capable of making my life great. And you might be like, what's the problem with that? Well, my reproductive system inching closer and closer to geriatric status is not exactly thrilling because I would like kids and ideally they would have a father. But the older I get, the harder it is to find someone because my options are decreasing and I keep providing myself with a better and better life, which means someone has to compete with that. And that scares the hell out of me because I do want a boyfriend, but I just matched with a 33-year-old man who still lives at home with his mom, and I'm not really sure what to do with that. The dating pool is so bad that my initial thought was, oh, maybe he has a really good reason. I gotta be open-minded. What the hell am I talking about? I'm sitting in my clean and peaceful apartment. I just made short ribs for dinner and I'm about to start my third book of the week. I don't know what his reason could be, but I can't imagine it's good enough to compete with this. But it doesn't even matter because after finding out what his living situation is, which I didn't even press further on as to not embarrass him, he texted me and said he's not really sure if he's in a place for a relationship right now, which I would have to agree. So yeah, that's my weekly dating update. I can't really concern myself with my biological clock at the moment when the options of who to do the whole biology thing with are so bleak.
Even Vogue has joined into the conversation recently with the viral article, "Is Having a Boyfriend Embarrassing Now?" In it, the writer talks about how for so long we lived in a world where women's identities centered around the lives of their partners, and they're over it. The core issue they get to here is not that having a boyfriend is bad, but that it's becoming more normalized for women to create their own life, and if they stumble upon a man that fits into that mold, then that's great, but they aren't boy hungry anymore just for the sake of it.
See, this is the type of decenter that man that we are all collectively looking for. Rama, Zoran's wife, 2 days before the most historic election where her husband was about to become mayor of New York City, this is what she's posting. She's posting a selfie and things I saw in October that made me want to make art. Like literally, like this is not about him. This is not about him. This is about me and my art, which is like extremely radical. If we've ever seen kind of a like public political couple like this, we would most likely be expecting the woman to be heavily campaigning and posting only about her man. But no, she said, "F that man. I'm gonna talk about me and the
I like.
Obviously, there's no shame in falling in love, but there's also no shame in trying and failing to find it, or not trying at all. And as long as we're openly rethinking and criticizing heteronormativity, having a boyfriend will remain a somewhat fragile or even contentious concept within the public life. This is also happening alongside a wave of women reclaiming and romanticizing their single life. Where being single was once a cautionary tale, it's now becoming a desirable and even coveted status. Another nail in the coffin of a centuries-old heterosexual fairy tale that never really benefited women to begin with.
Today's Gen Z and millennial women do not want to date men who are mediocre just to be with a guy. They only want to date somebody who would add the cherry on top to their already really lush and lavish ice cream sundae, and some people don't want to Terry.
But unfortunately for some, this kind of behavior is seen as an attack on men. As said here, the problem is, how can we males provide something to a lady when all of her needs are being satisfied? A guy may feel undervalued and even emasculated to some extent if he enters a relationship with a woman who has all of her needs taken care of. And that brings us to the manosphere. If you haven't heard of the manosphere, it's the corner of the internet where men gather to connect over men's issues, but often is steeped in misogyny and anti-feminism.
There's a saying in Spanish, the quieter you are, the more beautiful you are. Why is it that that's a universal saying in all the different Latin countries? Why is it that men like quiet women, right? We've been saying that for years because women aren't valued on their opinions.
The manosphere, the loose collection of websites, podcasts, and online forums promoting anti-feminist views, attracts young men because those spaces take their concerns seriously. They write, the manosphere appeals to its audience because it speaks to the very real lives of young men. Romantic rejection, alienation, economic failure, loneliness, and a dim vision of the future. To them, it is a safe haven for the male loneliness epidemic because young men are struggling right now, and that shouldn't be understated.
Men don't really see what purpose they have, right? Misogyny and patriarchy has given them this idea that you have these specific purposes, and none of those purposes are about enjoying their lives or having quality time with the people they love or their family or their kids. It's all about provide, protect, and so they're given these sort of jobs in life. And then that's been stripped away because women have independence now. And so men are losing a sense of purpose beyond their seed. And now even that, women can just go and have IVF. A bunch of my friends are just having babies on their own. Men are losing hold, they're losing grip over what they were told was their identity.
But the pain is being weaponized as they're often being told to redirect their feelings of social isolation and alienation in deeply harmful ways.
I guess you could make the case that grape is bad for certain people.
No.
For certain people.
No, it's bad for everyone.
No, it's only bad for certain people.
The incel community is the most violent corner of the so-called manosphere. It is a community devoted to the violent hatred of women, a community that actively recruits members who might have very real problems and vulnerabilities and tells them that women are the cause of their woes. A community in whose name over 100 people, mostly women, have been or injured in the past 10 years.
When I was 17, I fell down the red pill pipeline and I managed to get myself out about 5 years later. Start out, you're just like, hey, we just want to be better with dating. We just want better social skills, right? And then before you know it, you're talking about women are dogs and you need to train them. I was able to kind of take the weight of blame off of myself. Actually, women are the ones in control. You're actually the victim in this situation.
In the absence of a culture that embraces the reality of boyhood, they found an alternative in the manosphere where they can feel heard, understood, and supported. And this isn't just something that is happening in a harmless corner of the internet, but it's bleeding out into the real world.
Who has seen, put your hand up if you've seen something on socials where a man or a group of men are telling a woman or a group of women, get back in the kitchen, go make me a sandwich. Who's seen that in their social media?
The author of Men Who Hate Women spoke to high school students, and one of them said, loads of people I hear talk about things like women getting our jobs now. Before long, they're going to have more rights than us. Before long, women will actually have more say in things, and it's becoming much more equal. And I think it's just threatening. And so misogyny is quietly being fed into men's belief systems under the guise of it isn't hating women, it's standing up for men. It isn't hating women, it's asking for real equality. It isn't hating women, it's accepting biological differences. All going to show that the male loneliness epidemic is just turning into resentment for women. Instead of asking why men struggle to form meaningful friendships or emotional bonds, the conversation becomes why women won't fix it for them. But the thing is, this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the manosphere, and it does get a lot darker from here. I'm choosing not to delve into that because it's honestly horrifying. But if you wish to know more, which I do think is really important, you can read the book Men Who Hate Women. I know as a mom of boys, it's super important to be aware of how easily men can fall down these paths without even realizing that they're being indoctrinated. But the point to drive home here is that these forums don't just stay online. They spill into the real world and affect real women. Final thoughts. So sorry to leave you on a super negative note, but I do believe that this is just really important to talk about, so here we are. I also really hope that this video didn't come off as hating men, because that's not what I was going for. However, I will say that I did get pretty angry at certain specific men in the process of making this video, and I feel like that's reasonable. The point of all this is that even though we've made so many strides, we aren't out of the woods yet, and there will continue to be times where you have to defend womanhood. But that is all I have for you today. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't, and check out the merch, and I wish you a week of wearing frills and bows if that's something that makes you happy. Bye.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like coming to Costco with your wife?
Oh, I love it. Oh, 10.
10?
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like coming to Costco with your wife?
Oh, actually 10.
10?
Yeah.
All right. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like coming to Costco with your wife?
20.
20? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like coming to Costco with your wife?
10.
10?
Actually 11.
11?
And a half.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.